You're listening to the Codependent Millennial Podcast with Sophie Shiloh, episode number 27, A Training on Self-Trust. I just wrapped up a training series on Instagram all about personal power. And the last video was all about intuition and self-trust. And the number one most important question that you need to ask yourself if you want to build more trust with yourself, if you want to get more in touch with your intuition. And this video lives on my Instagram page and my IGTV, but it was too important not to include here on the podcast. So today you'll be listening to the entirety of that video. I hope that you enjoy listening to this. I hope that it serves you. And I really hope that you break out a pen and paper and engage with this work, engage with the questions that I mentioned in this video, because I promise you, if you do so, it will transform your relationship to your intuition and your self-trust. As a reminder, there are less than 48 hours to apply for the Codependency Cure mentorship program. This is a comprehensive 6-month deep dive intensive into healing your codependency, healing people-pleasing, boundary issues, guilt, shame, low self-worth, all of that. I want to read to you a couple of things that current members of the mentorship are saying. Crystal says, Sophie's encouragement, unconditional positive regard, and insistence on lovingly calling you out on your shit can't be matched. I am working on taking all my personal power back from everyone who I've given it to because of my codependency. When I started the mentorship, I barely could identify with my codependency. Now I proudly wear the metaphorical badge, Codependent AF. I love it, Crystal. Thank you so much. Rebecca says, I knew Sophie was amazing, but the calls and Slack are next level. The mentorship covers everything under the sun. I've started to let go of my ex-boyfriend in ways that I didn't know I needed to. I've felt so much happier and freer because of Sophie's knowledge. I love it, Rebecca. Thank you so much. That is what happens in this mentorship program. It is a transformational 6 months. If you're looking to experience transformation in your own life similar to what these women are experiencing, the mentorship is for you. You can apply at codependentmillennial.com, and I cannot wait to read your application. Now let's get started with the training. Hello, my loves. Welcome to the next video in our series on personal power. Today we're talking all about self-trust and intuition. This is the last video in this series, and what this series has been doing so far is taking you through the first several modules in the Codependency Cure mentorship program. There are 24 amazing modules in this program over the 6 months, and I just wanted to give you a little taste and a little, peek into what the program entails, into what's inside. So today we're talking about self-trust and intuition. The biggest questions that you need to ask yourself when trying to develop more self-trust and a deeper connection with your intuition are the questions about why you are hesitant to follow it. That's a big one. Why are you hesitant to trust your intuition? Why are you hesitant to follow your inner guidance? Why are you hesitant to listen to it? That's really the question that matters the most here. Every other subsequent question after that, yes, it matters. The nuances of listening to your intuition, figuring out exactly what that feels like, what it sounds like, whatever, yes, that all matters. But none of that, you can't get there if you're stuck at the bottleneck of not even being able to trust it or listen to it or want to follow it in the first place. So that's why I say the most important question in this entire conversation, and yes, I'm dropping it here on Instagram Live because I think it's that important. The most important question is, why are you hesitant to listen to it, to follow it, to give it credence? Why? I guarantee you there are lists and lists of reasons to this question, lists and lists of answers that you have, reasons why you are reticent to trust yourself, to even open that door, to even have a conversation with your intuition. There are reasons why you don't do this. There are reasons why you're hesitant to do this, and those reasons really, really, really matter. A lot of things I hear from clients, both in the mentorship program and in one-on-one, is people will tell me that they're afraid to follow their intuition because they don't want something to go wrong and for it to be their fault. They don't want something to go wrong and for it to prove to them that their intuition failed them. And oh my God, I love this so much, because what that perspective is coming from. Major procrastination. Allison, tell me more. Tell me, what do you mean by that? Go into more detail. The reason why I love this so much when people say, well, I don't want to follow my intuition or trust myself because if something goes wrong, then it'll mean that I shouldn't have trusted myself. The reason why I love this is because this hits at the crux of what it means to follow your intuition and trust yourself. What it means to follow your intuition is to be buckled the F in for a long game. Trusting your intuition requires that you have a long-term fisheye lens perspective on your life. If you have a 5-minute long attention span for listening to your intuition and iterating on that and evaluating the results, I promise you, you're going to abandon your intuition so fast, so fast. You're gonna say, that was a terrible idea. Should have never trusted myself. But what happened there is not that your intuition led you astray, I promise you, because it never does. What happened there is not that you proved yourself unworthy of trust. What happened there was that you put too short a timeline on being able to evaluate and understand the way that your intuition speaks to you and leads you. Sometimes we get a hit from our intuition. Sometimes we get a direction, an instruction from our intuition, and we don't get to find out why our intuition told us to do that thing until 2 hours in the future, 2 months in the future, 2 years in the future, 2 decades. Literally, sometimes you don't find out 2 decades later. Sometimes you never find out. Sometimes things just, you felt called to do things and you never get to find out why. Guess what? Because not everything's about you. I'm being totally serious right now. Sometimes your intuition calls you to do things that didn't have a whole lot to do with you. They had to do with maybe someone else's path, with you affecting someone else's life, with you being a gift in someone else's experience of Earth. It's so funny to me when people use a short timeline to justify the fact that they don't want to trust themselves, that they're too scared. What if, what would your experience of trusting yourself be if you didn't get to decide whether or not you led yourself astray after 3 weeks or 3 months? What if you just trusted yourself carte blanche for a 3-week period or a 3-month period or even a 3-year period? See, what happens with me, and maybe you can relate to this, is I will ask myself a question, I'll tune in, tap in for some guidance, I'll get some sort of a direction, and sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes it's a longing, sometimes it's a desire, a feeling, whatever. I'll tune in and I'll want confirmation of its validity immediately. And if in the next 24 hours my entire life doesn't fall into place in exactly the way that I wanted it to, then I've decided that in that area, for example, in that realm, I'm untrustworthy, or I have nothing to offer myself in terms of direction. And that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, you guys. If you're hearing me say that and you're like, you can kind of dissociate from it and identify that that's a ridiculous pattern, please know that in you, if you recognize that pattern in you, no. It's equally as ridiculous. You might think it's more valid when you do it because you're like, no, that really was an indication that I can't trust myself. No, it's not. Crystal, I'm gonna read what you said. And Allison, I don't know if you're still on here, but let me know what you meant by major procrastination. So Crystal, you said, I'm afraid my self-trust will lead to self-sabotage. That my self-trust is really the little devil on my shoulder. This is so good. Okay. Crystal, thank you for saying this and thank you for asking this question. Crystal, you're taking up way too much time and space on this Instagram Live right now. I think you need to tone it down. You have too many needs. I love making fun of you, Crystal. Okay, Allison, yes, tell me what you mean by procrastination. Go into more detail if you can, please. So Crystal, let's address what you said, that my self-trust is really the little devil on my shoulder. What's hilarious is that thought is actually, yeah, I'm dying too, Crystal. Thank you always for letting me laugh at your expense. Okay, so the thought, my self-trust is the little devil on my shoulder, is a devil on your shoulder. Any thought that would seek to try and separate you from exploring what self-trust feels like and looks like to you is a devil on your shoulder. I love that you brought that phrase in because it's so perfect. It's like a visualization. We can just see this like mischievous little motherfucker just being like, are you sure you're gonna trust yourself? What if you trust yourself and you know, you do the wrong thing? And what if you trust yourself and you realize that was exactly the opposite of what you needed to do? Look, if you get a hit from your intuition and you follow it and it leads to something that was unwanted for whatever reason, you defined the result of that action as unwanted. Number one, you don't know what the result was because did you die? No, you're still alive. You're still able to evaluate results. You don't know how this plays out. You don't know how this plays out. Listen to me. You don't know how this plays out. You've decided based on a limited amount of data that you've gathered after a very limited and arbitrary amount of time that your self-trust, your intuition wasn't trustworthy, wasn't valid, wasn't guiding you well in that moment. But again, that's on an arbitrary timeline that you made up that has nothing to do with anything. It doesn't serve you to decide after a certain amount of time, if your life doesn't look the way you wanted it, that you can't be trusted with your own decisions. That doesn't serve you at all. So the thought, Crystal, maybe my self-trust is leading me to self-sabotage, that is self-sabotage. That is self-sabotage. So I would encourage you, with anything in your life that you are trying to listen to yourself about, give it some time. Like, let the cake bake. Don't decide after some arbitrary amount of time that the results that you have produced are quote unquote unwanted, and so that is an indication that your self-trust isn't real, isn't valid, shouldn't be listened to. Don't do that. Don't do it. Decide to believe instead, this is a step on my path. Decide to believe instead, I can't see it now, but I know my intuition's leading me to the thing that I ultimately want. Decide to believe, I know I can't recognize it right now because of my limited capacity to really understand holistically like the trajectory of my life, but I know that my intuition is always leading me to things that grow me and make me better and pull me forward. I just believe that. And I'm never going to let any circumstances in my life distance me from my own connection with my intuition and my trust of myself. Okay. Crystal, you're so funny. Crystal, yes, put the specific situation in Slack. That's awesome. Let the cake bake. Yes, exactly. Although also don't let it bake because I love eating batter and half-baked cakes. I love it. Okay, you guys, that is what I have for you. Allison, I'm not seeing your comment about procrastination. If you want to DM me and ask me, please do, because I would love to talk with you about this. Crystal, go let that cake bake. Maybe go literally bake a cake just for fun. You guys, I will tell a little story before I log off for the night. So, oh God, this was years ago. When I was working on the first business I ever started, this was so funny. I was doing some work for it, and I was just kind of in this zone of like, okay, come on, like, let me get some guidance here. Like, where do I go? I'm not really sure what to do. Oh, Allison, you're at work. Awesome. Yeah. DM me later. Thanks for popping on, by the way. It was good to see you. So I was just like kind of wanting some guidance in my business and in my life and whatever. And I just like got this divine inspiration. I was like, the thought in my head was, I feel divinely inspired to bake cookies right now. And it was so ridiculous because wow, like looking back at that now, it was like clearly it was me avoiding, it was me being afraid and wanting comfort and procrastination and wanting to do something easy and wanting to do something where I knew the result was guaranteed. I was like, I'm gonna bake these cookies and I'm gonna get a result, and I know I'm gonna bake these cookies and it's not gonna be a mystery, and my fucking nervous system isn't gonna be on high alert because I know I'm just baking cookies. I know how this goes. But here's the thing. I was actually divinely inspired to bake cookies. I was going 1,000,000 miles an hour. My nervous system was a fucking wreck. I was exhausted. And I just needed to bake some goddamn cookies. I just needed to turn my brain off for a hot second and bake some cookies. And so you could say your intuition, your self-trust is self-sabotage. You could look at that and choose to take the perspective of you were just self-sabotaging in that moment by baking cookies because you took focus away from your business. Guess what? We're not robots. Sometimes the divine inspiration is to let your nervous system rest. If you're not a fucking weirdo, you can see that. If you're not an automaton and you're not committed to like breaking your own back for some arbitrary like belief that you're committed or whatever, you've decided that committed looks a certain way, then you can actually really truly tap into what your body needs and listen when it says to take a bath or bake some cookies or do that spreadsheet or file your taxes. Like that's what happens when you're open to all of this, is that you really are open to whatever your life is calling for in that moment. Crystal, you bake cookies a lot? Good. Allison said, boom. I love it. Okay. You guys, I love you so much. Thank you for hanging out with me at like 8 p.m. I adore all of you so much. To anyone watching this later who is interested in letting things happen in their time. Yes, exactly. Yep, not forcing. To anyone watching this later, because this will be on IGTV, if you're watching this and you're like, holy shit, I need to trust myself. I really need to get in touch with what that feels like, with how to actually iterate on my intuition, on the hits that my inner guidance system is actually trying to give me. That's stuff we focus on day in, day out in the Codependency Cure Mentorship. So if you haven't yet applied, if you're one of those people who's like opening the application page over and over, by the way, I can see all of those clicks, so I know you're doing it, which is adorable. If you're opening and you haven't applied yet, just go apply. The questions on that application are a mini course in like self-love and self-trust in themselves. So the application will be transformative for you alone. I promise you that. And I will be reviewing those applications soon, and the mentorship begins on November 1st. So I'll talk to you guys soon. That application, by the way, can be found at codependentmillennial.com or at the link in my bio. Look forward to talking to you guys soon. And thank you all so much for tuning in for this amazing series on personal power. Go back and watch all the other videos. I think there are 9 other videos, something like that. But they're all very helpful. And I really hope that you take the learning from all these videos, apply it in your life. It will be transformational for you. I guarantee you that. I love you guys tons, and I'll talk to you soon. Mwah. Bye. All right, my loves, and that's a wrap. I hope you loved that training. I hope you engaged with the questions in a meaningful way. I hope you implement this learning into your daily lives. I hope you use it to deepen your trust in yourself, to deepen your relationship and your connection with your intuition. There is just nothing more important than that. Nothing. If you're ready to take this work deeper, if you're ready to get serious about healing your codependency, building your relationship with yourself, deepening your connection with your intuition, leaving behind your people-pleasing tendencies, fixing your boundary issues, eliminating guilt and shame from your life, developing unshakable confidence and a sense of self-worth, doing all of these amazing things that happen when you heal your codependency. If you're ready for this, apply for my Codependency Cure Mentorship program now. There are less than 48 hours to apply if you're listening to this on October 29th, 2020. Doors close on October 30th at midnight, and I would love to read your application. I would love to help walk you into a codependency-free life. All of the information about this mentorship and the application can be found at codependentmillennial.com. And of course, you can always reach out to me if you have any questions at all. My email is sophie@codependentmillennial.com. That's SOPHIE@codependentmillennial.com. I cannot wait to talk to you soon, and I hope to serve you as your coach in the 6-month Codependency Cure Mentorship Program.